Hi friends, so in this video I am going to explain about a Parsevels theorem. The Parsevels theorem states that integration minus infinity to infinity mod x of t whole square into dt is equal to what? 1 by 2 pi integration minus infinity to infinity x of omega whole square into d omega. So here the square of time domain signal, which is equal to 1 by 2 pi of the frequency domain signal. So this is the Parsevels theorem. Here x of t is nothing but what? Continuous time signal. Here x conjugate of t be conjugate of x of t. Here why we have to write this conjugate means, now mod x of t whole square, you can write it as x of t into x conjugate of t. Conjugate of t is nothing but plus or minus. This value is minus and this value is plus. So integrate on both sides. So this equation you have to integrate on both sides with respect to t. That is integration minus infinity to infinity mod x of t whole square into dt is equal to integration minus infinity to infinity x of t dot x conjugate of t into dt. Keep it as equation 1. Now we already know the definition of inverse Fourier transform, right? So that is nothing but what? X of t is equal to what? How to get x of t? If we apply inverse Fourier transform to x of omega, we can get x of t signal. That is inverse Fourier transform of x of omega is equal to what? X of t. Now write down the formula for a inverse Fourier transform. That is x of t is equal to integration 1 by 2 pi integration minus infinity to infinity. These limits are for omega. X of omega e power j omega t into d omega. Now by taking conjugate of the above equation, you can get x conjugate of t is equal to 1 by 2 pi integration minus infinity to infinity x conjugate of omega e power. If you apply conjugate to this e power j omega t, you can get e power minus j omega t into d omega. Keep it as equation 2. Now using equation 2, that means using this equation, and equation 1 can be written as, use second equation and equation 1 can be written as, so what is equation 1? Integration minus infinity to infinity mod x of t whole square into dt. In place of x conjugate of t, you have to substitute this value, right? So integration minus infinity to infinity x of t. What is x conjugate of t value? This one. You have to substitute x conjugate of t, this value here, into dt. Now rearrange the terms. That is 1 by 2 pi is constant, integration minus infinity to infinity x conjugate of omega integration x of t e power minus j omega t dt into d omega. Now it is in the form of what? It is in the form of the Fourier transform, right? So this is a Fourier transform. That is x conjugate of omega, x of omega into d omega. Now this can be written as, integration minus infinity to infinity x of t whole square into dt is equal to x conjugate of omega into x of omega into d omega. So if you multiply this one, means this is mod x of omega whole square into d omega. This is the Parsevels theorem. So Parsevels theorem is nothing but what? The square of the time domain signal, which is equal to 1 by 2 pi of the frequency domain signal. Thank you.